and we want to welcome you into our conversation. I want to say welcome into our conversation because we've been talking privately for since last year. And we decided, us three women with one mission, to come together to open up the conversation in the space for other Black women and anyone who can relate, anyone who wants to do better because they know better. Then before we get started in our conversation, I do want to share that this is not therapy. We're going to be talking about subjects, life, love, leadership, but this is not therapy. Therapy is there to help you process your past and work through your grief and name your grief. But this is not that. This is us three coming together with our three separate areas of expertise to help you move forward. You'll find that that's where the work actually begins, or a different type of work. And you need different tools and different languages and different perceptions. And we help you do that. Today, we are again for our third time inviting you to our conversations, sharing our stories, because we hope in doing that and being vulnerable and demonstrating that it encourages you and empowers you to look in your story and find strength. First, Pamela Elaine shared her story with us. She's the author of Muddy High Heels. She shared how she went from betrayal to breakthrough. And then last week, Marjorie shared with us. She's the author of Who the Hell Do You Think You Are?
Mhm.
Okay. And she shared with us how she moved through different adverse childhood experiences that led her to coming home and finding home within herself. So you're going to want to check those out and grab their books as well, because they tell the full story. I'm Erica Huey. I'm a retired social worker, former C-suite executive, have degrees in sociology, business, and human resources if you care about that stuff. But what I'm most excited about is my work as a social scientist with Satori Synergy. So, my story. I'm in kindergarten. I'm 5 years old. I'm on the bus going to school. And let's call him Timmy. This boy on the bus named Timmy, he is on the bus just making a ruckus. He's just yelling and he's acting like his stomach is upset. And he's just like, ooh, ooh, yuck, yuck. So finally, one of the other children got Timmy to say, what's wrong with him?
Mm.
And Timmy says, oh, gross. My dad kissed my mom in the kitchen this morning. Oh my God, I'm so grossed out. So the other kids, they chime in. It becomes a sport for them. They get it. They like, oh yeah, gross. I hate when they do that. And yeah, it just becomes a whole shenanigan. I'm sitting there very confused, very straight faced, stoic.
Mm.
I have no idea what all of these shenanigans are about because but the other kids are responding to the kiss. So like, oh, I saw my parents kiss. My 5-year-old mind wants to know, why was Timmy's dad in his mom's kitchen? Because that's weird. Never, I've never seen anything. I've never seen my dad in my mom's kitchen. I, I've seen I've seen my dad in my mom's doorstep or right in the living room, the foyer. But why is he in the kitchen? My brain didn't even get to kissing, sharing space like that. So that rocked my little world, obviously. So my little 5-year-old brain is trying to compute and calculate. And it's not funny to me because jokes are funny because it has a ring of truth to it. And so I didn't get the joke. So I decided, to go throughout the school day. I decided he was making it up. And he was a jokester. He was a comedian. Great joke. So I got off the bus. I'm going home. I'm sure my mom's going to ask me about my day. And she does, of course. And I'm like, oh, Mom, let me tell you about Timmy. And so I told her about Timmy. And so that was a reality check that she cashed for me right then and there. She cashed that check. She told me the truth, sat me down and told me, basically different strokes for different folks. She like, Timmy was probably not making that up. That's probably his life, his reality. And then she just went through the whole gamut about parents and Yeah, not only they're supposed to like each other or flirt or kiss and share a kitchen, but be married. And I was like, you don't say. I had no idea. And so she shared with me that my parents, they had separated by the time I was 2.
Mhm.
Marriage had ended before I had developed permanent memories
Mm.
of them. So that was not my normal. And so it opened up my psyche. So, and what did I believe because of this? So I began to believe what my mom said, different strokes for different folks. But what's fascinating to me as I look back is that I did not internalize it. I didn't say, "Oh, what's wrong with me?" or "Why can't I have that?" or "Something's wrong with me." I didn't do that. I externalized it. And I accepted that there is no one size fits all reality. I became curious. It actually opened my mind, it opened my psyche. And I began to develop what I call like this X ray vision. I always know is just more to the story. It just made me realize that all of those kids on the bus go home to a very different reality. So, as the number of kids in my class, that's the number of different of realities that are available. Um, so I took that and I thought about the whole state or the whole world, and I was like, "Oh, I was living in a bubble, and my bubble has been bursted, but it's okay." I just made me curious about other people's bubbles and lives, and so this showed up later as hyper awareness, what I'm describing now. There's always a backstory. I learned how to read the rooms and read people because I'm always scanning for what don't I see them, but there's something I don't know about them. And then I started to be interested in different behaviors. And this was supported by the fact that I went to 3 different elementary schools between kindergarten and 5th grade. And then I went to 3 different middle schools. There's only 3 grades in middle school, 6, 7, 8. So I went to a new school every year. And
Mhm.
so my whole life has been on the job training for my social awareness in surviving and thriving in different environments and realities. And so that shaped me into being like a shape shifter. I'm able to exist in spaces and places and environments that other people can't. I can move in and I can move out, and I just have an openness and a flexibility that I realize some other people don't have. They're very rigid and fixed in their realities, and so it's like I can bend where others would break. So if something changes in my life, I can accept it and I can zoom out, reframe it, orient myself. I could reorient myself and take it and move forward and be present in the moment. So I don't break as easily. But I do break. I'm only human, but I recover differently than other people. So what interrupted this pattern is finding language. I was able when I got to college and discovered that sociology was a major, I was able to finally have language to describe what I had been experiencing in life for myself and for others. Um, it was like discovering sociology was like discovering a behavioral map of the whole world. I was just so excited. Seriously, I was just so excited that I wasn't the only human being who was like interested in studying how people behaved in groups and cultures and in their workplaces. Because before college, none of my friends wanted to talk about that. And, you could remember back in, elementary school or middle school, like, they had career day, right? Do y'all remember being asked this question, "What do you wanna be when you grow up? What do you wanna do?"
Of
Um,
course. Mhm.
so when that question came, I never had an answer. My
Mm.
friends would have an answer. They would say, a pilot, a nurse, a teacher, a doctor. I never understood the question. Kinda like that moment with Timmy on the bus, it just did not compute in my mind. I'm like,
Mhm.
"What I wanna do? I don't wanna do anything." I watch people. That's, that's what I naturally am. And I was like, well, I'm already somebody. What do you mean, who would I want to be when I grow up? I'm already me. So just didn't never, I never understood the question. So when I found sociology, it gave me permission in a community of other people who thought and looked at the world the way I do. And so that interrupted the pattern because I finally had support to study the things that I naturally were studying all throughout my childhood. But now I had names for them. Now I know, oh, that's called psychology, or that's called theology, or that's called astrology. Oh, that's the African diaspora. So the Eastern philosophies. Um, the Chinese I Ching, and that's the yin yang symbol. You may be familiar with that, or um, and that's 5,000 years old. I was really fascinated when I learned that because that still describes behaviors that you can plug into right now today. And they wrote that 5,000 years ago. And so just experiencing different realities, is moving throughout the country in my adulthood, living in Japan for several years, I discovered human design. And that was another moment that interrupted that pattern and it kind of elevated. So it's more of an elevation than an interruption. It elevated because before human design, I was piecemealing all of these different modalities and philosophies together, trying to make sense of myself and other people's lives. And of course, by this time, I had been working as a social worker for many years. And so human design just helped. It was something for me. I sat with it after I discovered it quietly for years. I just kept it to myself because finally I had something that I could learn about myself and self awareness. I just wasn't learning about other people. And so I sat with it. And this is after, again, just, majoring in sociology and working as a social worker. And this is after therapy as well. And so those two things, one I studied and one that I participated in, it still left me with a lot of answers. I mean, questions that I didn't have answers for. And human design literally is like a map that showed me, that's why. Oh, this is why. Now, it doesn't solve any problems, but it gave me an awareness. It reminded me I have free will and a choice. And it took me back to, wow, all of these different realities are available, like I learned on the school bus in kindergarten. And through my intention and behavior, I can choose what reality I could behave my way into a new lifestyle or a new chapter of my life. And so the strength I forged was being able to take broken pieces of reality, like when your reality breaks open and you
Mhm.
feel broken, I can take those pieces and put them back together. And in my mind, I'm trying to describe it the best way I can. It forms like a prism and I'm able to see the full spectrum of what's going on in my life or your life, and just see the beauty and the differences and still forge a way forward. So that is how my origin story turned into how what I do now orient myself and I orient others. So shout out to my mom and dad. I mean, y'all did great. I'm okay. I turned out okay. I turned out fairly okay. And you did great. I'm great. And I'm gonna turn to my sisters. I'm gonna ask Marjorie first. What did you pick up about my story from a personal and professional evolution standpoint that others may have overlooked?
Well,
Well,
child, I'm listening to your story as a little girl, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all because you can see from 5 years old, and you pretty much said it, how you took pieces of information and you processed it and you started to connect the dots.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
okay, this is how the world should look. This is how it should be, right? And the thing is, from a young age, this is what personal evolution looks like, right? Because
Mm.
you have a curiosity about others, right? But that also makes you curious about yourself. So when you start to become curious about others and yourself, then you're the type of person who can easily evolve as you're moving through life. And you said it, you said you shapeshift. As soon as you said that, that told me everything I needed to know about your evolutionary process. Because what you did was you didn't allow yourself to get stuck in this thing about questioning your mother at that point. Well, why this and why is that? And questioning, well, where's my dad? And why isn't he here? And and sometimes we take all of that, all of the uncertain, all of the unknowing, and we make that a story that we put in our backpack and take with us, right?
Mm,
But you didn't do that. You looked at your mother and you trusted what she was saying and you said, "Oh, okay. And now this is how the world works," right? And as you got information as you went along throughout your life, your adolescence and as a young woman, you continued to do that. As you went to school and you educated yourself, you took that information and you continued to do that. And what I loved about this is that this is what you do as a human design coach, is that you take those pieces, not just in your life, but now you're doing it with other people,
yeah.
and you have this bird's eye view of putting these fragmented pieces together to say, ah, this is what the theme looks like, right? And so and the other piece you said too was the naming of it. You got language for
Mm,
what you were experiencing and seeing. And I think that's the thing that people usually miss, is they don't quite know. They can't name it. They can't identify it, right? So then they have no understanding of it. So it just keeps showing up and, oh, this is just who I am. This is just a part of who I am. But as we get understanding of what it is we're actually feeling and thinking, then we start to then the shifts start to happen. So it just gives you that deeper understanding. So what people may miss and not see in your story is that you were actively in this personal evolution throughout your life based on the fact that you didn't, and you said it, you didn't internalize the story,
mhm.
right? And that I don't want to say that's unusual. I will say that I have rarely ever heard that as people are sharing their stories. We tend to internalize it. So that says something about the way your mother was raising you. That says something about just who you are as a person. I could just imagine you as a little girl. You were just one of those little girls with the pigtails, and you were just the best student, and you listened and you did what you were supposed to do, because this is the way you see the world is supposed to work, right? And so yeah, you are just a grown-up version of that little girl in a lot of ways. And you took that experience right there, and you just kept layering upon it, and were evolving, and you will continue to evolve because you are curious about the world and curious about yourself.
I love that so much. You say I'm just a grown-up version of that little girl. And the moment you said that, it took me back. I remember, me saying when I was sharing my story that, like, "What do you mean who I wanna be when I grow up? I'm already me." Like,
Perfect
like, what am I
answer. Yes.
what am I supposed to change into?
Yeah.
And now I realize now that I know human design and I know that I'm a projector and that sheds some light on things, and yeah, it does speak, like I said, shout out to my parents. It does speak to, um, my parents, even though I don't have memory of them being in union and marriage together. My dad lived in the same city around the corner, but I only saw them interact transactionally
Mhm, mhm.
because we had visitation every other weekend and holidays. It was all laid out in the divorce decree, so they were doing the thing and co-parenting, but it was transactional.
Mm.
So yeah, so that really, like, Timmy was like gross, and other kids got it. I'm like, I've never seen my mom and dad even high five each other, like, uh, shake hands, let alone be in each other's Um,
Mhm.
but it was just cordial, it was neutral. It wasn't heightened, obviously, affectionate, and it wasn't negative. It was just neutral. And and I was like, wow, there are other experiences available. And yeah, I didn't get sad about it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's another rarity that you're just saying that you hear about, parents having very contentious relationships and the little children are in the middle and they're seeing this, and they're internalizing all of that, but you had pretty much, a different experience in that, you know?
yeah,
Mhm.
I can't explain it. I mean, a little now that I know I've learned more about myself through my studies, and therapy and human design. So I have answers now. But
Mhm.
um, Pamela Elaine, I've got to experience your expertise as your emotional intelligence as your client, and you have not heard this story before, so this is also a real time um, response from you. So, what would you share from your perspective that others may have missed? Oh, I can't hear you. I don't know if others can. I heard you a few moments ago.
Okay, now
Thank
can you?
Yes.
It would help if I took myself off mute.
Well,
Um,
that's what I like to do, be on mute and let other people talk.
I know. Um, Whenever I hear a story, I'm doing 2 things at the same time, but I'm not distracted by doing those 2 things at the same time. One is I'm listening very intently to the story. And the second thing I'm doing is I'm listening for what is the emotion that the storyteller is conveying without the storyteller naming the emotion. And in your story, I was listening for what is Erica's emotion that she's sharing here. And it took me a moment to sort of hone in on it. So I referred to Dr. Mark Brackett's mood meter. And I think I'm going to put that image in the link because I don't know how to share it in real time without completely leaving the meeting and then destroying the whole conversation. But his mood meter names over 100 different emotions, but the genius of it is that he puts them into 4 quadrants, depending on the energy of the mood and the sensation of the mood. So it's high pleasantness, low pleasantness, high energy, low energy. And so he
Mhm.
goes into the 4 different quadrants of those 2 different variables, low, pleasantness, high, energy, etc. Okay. So a pleasantness to and energy are combined. And what's interesting is I was looking for which domain or quadrant are you telling the story from or that you're emoting actually? And the 3 that came up for me are in the and I'm gonna give the 3 to you, and I want you to tell me if they fit for
Okay.
you, okay? Is that cool?
Yeah. I'm so nervous.
Right.
I don't it's an excitement. Oh, that's an emotion. I'm just excited. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it is. So I placed you in the quadrant called, low energy, high pleasantness. Okay, low energy, high pleasantness. And then I looked for which of the multiple emotions in low energy, high pleasantness are you expressing or that I'm picking up. And the 3 that came up for me in this story are chill. Okay. We use that kind of as a slang, but it actually describes an emotion. And I'm going to tell you kind of a general definition of chill, and I'm going to give you the other 2. So, chill is just generically relaxed, unbothered, emotionally
Mm.
at ease. Okay. Because in your story, I didn't feel a high, I didn't feel a exaggerated, it was just sort of middle ground. Okay. The other that I thought that you were emoting or I was picking up was calm, relaxed, easygoing, and free from tension or intensity. So before I give you the third one, can you just tell me if either of those two are close in the ballpark or completely out?
I have been described and self-described as unbothered for as long as I can remember. So chill, I guess, is another way to say say that. Um, and then being calm. Yes, I definitely recognize that. I look into and I leverage my astrology as well, and
Mm,
that's um, a very personal touch point. Being a Taurus, the bull is one of the energy patterns of being grounded. Um, the other elements are fire, air, and water. So I'm not on fire. I'm not deep in water emotions. And airy, the air signs are just, very mental, just in their mind. And me being grounded, chill, unbothered is very much my makeup that I see in my astrology chart and my human design chart.
okay, I'm glad you said that because l I didn't accept either one of those as the, "Aha, I think this is the emotion" one,
Mm,
although they play a role, obviously. The emotion that I landed on, and again, I could be wrong, and it's fine because this is all fun and a
it
discussion,
is.
is an emotion which many people probably wouldn't consider an emotion is balanced. Balance is defined as emotionally steady, centered, and proportionate to what's happening.
Love that.
Okay, so balance is calm but not detached, engaged but not overwhelmed, aware of emotions without being ruled by them. And this is the part I love the most because I think it really hits home to your story. Responsive rather than reactive. You didn't
Ooh.
go, "Oh my God, mother! Oh, blah, 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 blah." All right. You didn't tell Timmy, Timmy, shut up. Sit down. How can you behave like that? How can you say these things? Like that, I didn't hear that in your story. Maybe it was your story, but that's not what you shared.
No, I didn't react. No, I'm not very reactive.
Right. You are responsive, which is different,
It is.
right? And so I am going to land on this story in terms of the emotions involved are chill, mellow, but really balanced. That's what came up for me. Now, in experiencing an emotion and emotional intelligence are not necessarily the same. The emotion is just the energy.
Yeah.
Emotional
Yeah.
intelligence is how we use the energy, whether or not you can name I'm feeling balanced or not. And likely you weren't able to name that at that young age.
Mm.
But the question becomes, how does Erica use that energy of balance in her life, in how she sees herself, in how she expresses herself, in how she engages in relationship interpersonally with others, in how she makes decisions, and how she deals with stress. All right. And that's when we enter into how emotionally intelligent is Erica, because all of us experience emotions. What
Yeah.
we do with that energy is a thing that we can control and contain or be completely out of control and uncontained.
Mhm.
And because I mean, we're all getting to know one another, right? I don't, we just got to know one another about 6 or 7 months ago, maybe. And I've had the privilege of learning about you and hearing about you and getting my own assessment from you in terms of my human design. But there's a lot that I don't know about you. However, I do know some data about you.
Yes. Yes, my emotional intelligence assessment that you did.
Exactly.
Anything sticks out about that shows up in this story?
Yes. So, um, and when we do an emotional intelligence assessment for everyone out there, we are answering the question, because people say, "Oh, he has no emotional intelligence," or "She has so much emotional intelligence." We answer the question of how much, to what extent, because
Mhm.
those statements really don't um, are not quantitative. In emotional intelligence assessment, we want to put numbers to the statements. All right. So I did your emotional intelligence assessment to put numbers to how skilled you are in a number of areas, 5 different areas
Right.
of your life. Self-perception, how you see yourself, which I just went over. Self-expression, how you express yourself. Interpersonal, how you relate to others and your show of empathy. Decisions, how you make decisions when emotions are involved, right? Not just cognitive decision making, but emotions are involved. In stress management, how you deal when there's stress due to emotions. Okay. Those are the things that are assessed for you and for anyone that would ever do an EQ assessment in the way that I do it. So your question was, what did I see in terms of balance? Right. And in your EQ assessment, there are areas of what we call balance and areas of imbalance.
Mhm.
So, in your composite or in one of those 5 areas that I mentioned, there is tremendous agreement or balance in how you see yourself, your self-regard, your self-actualization, your self-perception. And there is tremendous balance because now we're looking at balance as a skill, right? Not just an emotion, but as a skill. In your self-expression. And although you were like, "No, I don't really express myself." But however you choose to name you express yourself, there's a balance between emotional expression, assertiveness, and independence.
Mm,
Okay? There's a
I can
balance.
see that. I can see that.
Under, interpersonal composite, we look at, um, interpersonal relationships, empathy, and social responsibility. And um, we look at how that composite, interpersonal composite is related. And I would say that in the interpersonal, there is also like that there shows a balance in there. The only place where there was not, if this is okay to share, I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is
I'm going on and on about your
this is
report. You don't even say,
I'm
Give me a report."
I'm only human. I'm only human. So, we all have areas of strengths and weaknesses. And I don't look at weaknesses as a weaknesses. I look at that as that's none of my business. Like that's not what God empowered me to do. I'm going to I have strengths, work on those, and my weaknesses, be aware of them, and I can leverage them. But and maybe it's just even the 5-year-old girl talking again. I don't internalize word strength versus weaknesses. So you can share that because I see it as something that I'm not designed to have or offer as a gift. Someone else has that to offer as a gift. I see it as something that I need to be aware of and that is useful for me in my evolution, like Marjorie was talking about. So yeah,
Hmm.
where did it show on my emotional intelligence that I'm not strong at?
Well, in the emotional intelligence and the coaching world, we say strengths and not strengths.
Mm,
That's what we those are the terms that we use. Strengths and not strengths. Strengths and not strengths are both the same in that they are opportunities for growth. You can have a strength and still have an opportunity to grow that strength. You can have a not strength and have an opportunity to grow that strength. So I want to neutralize for
oh,
everyone listening that strengths and not strengths are really the same, which are opportunities to grow. And
absolutely.
you focus on a not strength because you find it relevant to strengthen.
To evolve, to help you evolve, if that's what you choose to evolve in.
Sort of here we are hitting into Marjorie's domain,
Mhm.
opportunities for evolution. All right. So an opportunity for evolution where balance as an emotion might you might consider, if you want, strengthening that is flexibility.
Mhm.
So, in the domain of stress management as a skill, again, when we talk about emotional intelligence and scoring or assessing one's emotional intelligence skills, stress management is a composite made up of three other sub skills. All right. So I want everyone to remember we're talking about a skill, not something you're born with, something you develop. Okay. So in the area of stress management, under that, there is flexibility. That was a not strength, a not strength.
I remember you
It
saying that.
out
Yeah.
of Yes, and it was out of balance with stress tolerance and optimism. So the question I would have for you from this story and from actually your life stories, because that was 5 years old, I think you said, and you're
Yeah,
now
kindergarten. Mhm.
you're past now, so you've had multiple I just have to stop here for a second because I gotta address the elephant in the room. So I know you could probably see a lot of stuff going on in the background here.
Not really.
No.
Okay, good. Good. Because my daughter's here, and I told her, "You better be quiet." So she just be quiet by even just crawling on the floor to get from one side of the room to the other, but if you don't see it, you don't hear, we're all good.
No, we're good.
Okay. Um, so in the coaching realm, we ask questions we don't tell. And my question for you,
Mm,
based on balanced being an emotion, and then how you've cultivated that emotion over time.
mm.
There are areas that it shows up that you've cultivated and it shows up in the numbers. And there are areas that have not been cultivated that show up in the numbers.
Yes.
My question for you would be in the areas that it hasn't been cultivated, one has to ask, "S- great," or "so what?" or "Hmm, I might I might want to cultivate that as a skill set." Is
That's a fair question
Oh, great, I'm so glad.
about flexibility specifically. I can see that. Um, I'm not at it like a so what. I do recognize that once I do make a decision or form an insight about something, that is that is it, because it took me a long time to get there because I'm not reactive. This is how I see it and how I've experienced myself. Because I'm not reactive, I do take a moment to process. And I consider, and even in my human design, I literally have a completely open head, crown chakra, and ajna. So I don't have a closed mind. I literally have an open mind energetically. So once I do come to a conclusion that I'm fixed in, I'm there because I am confident that I have looked at it, turned it upside down, consider all perspectives. I've zoomed out, went into what I call my satellite mode. I feel like I've done all the things. And so once I made a decision to make a pivot or something, um, yeah, it is pretty final and I can become inflexible. So I'm okay with just having awareness of it. Again, that's other people's strengths. Some people are extremely flexible and we need them to do that. But like Marjorie is saying with my evolution, like maybe did you pick up on that in my story as far as the evolution perspective being 5 years old? Because you were mentioning that I didn't internalize it. Like I just processed it. I heard Timmy, I heard my mom out. I'm learning new things. Is that am I understanding? Is that an example of me looking at different perspectives, and maybe that's why I'm okay with, becoming inflexible when I'm finished processing?
It could be. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. That's not
Okay.
what I'm picking up on, but yeah, I just feel like the way the story was told, and I'm sensing that this is my world, And so this is how I process
Mm.
information when I guess it's all about data. It seems like it was all about data from you from a child. So and all
Yeah.
of that helped to shape your world view and your view about yourself, really.
I love that because Pamela May mentioned that emotions are data, so emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is information,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's an excellent point. So even as 5 years old, I was tracking that emotions and behaviors. Definitely for me, behaviors are data points to me. I
Yeah.
know people who were around me from kindergarten through college, friends and family. I know they were so sick of me because I will always say, "Well, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would not in a judgmental way, in a curious way.
Curiosity
Why
way.
are you
Exactly.
behaving like that?" So I'm just collecting data.
Yeah.
Just all the
Yeah.
time if you well, not now, 'cause, I like my peace.
Yeah.
And so I only do it when I'm at work helping orient other people.
Yeah.
I only do it at request now. But, from kindergarten through, college and early adulthood, everybody, every interaction was a case study, a real life case study for me. Like I
Mm.
said, so I've been having on the job training for my life, for my profession all my life. And I love that for me. And that's what I try to do for other people if they feel like it's correct for them.
Yeah.
I I literally get paid to be myself.
That's right. And you have all of your lived experiences already,
Yeah, so
right?
I don't
Be
have a
able to look
disconnect.
through the archives and process through all of that to be able to come up to a conclusion. Now I
Yes.
just want to make aware we are already at 1:15.
Oh, this is so
Okay.
good. This is
Yes, it
always when
went
I
by
oh,
really quickly.
oh,
So
okay.
I want to make us aware because if we want to maybe get to the last section of
No,
this
yeah,
or
no,
move right into
we
the
can wrap
closing,
up.
and let's do,
Well, before we do that, if you don't mind, and I hope that those listening don't mind or just pause and come back later. The only last thing I want to introduce here in the storytelling and what we've come to express here together is s- there is sometimes there can be a risk that balanced means unbothered, that nothing bothers you. And
And that's not true. So yeah.
right, so this is why I'm bringing it up because
Yeah.
what is important in relationships and in what we do and how we communicate and who we are as people is to know or to be able to express when one is bothered.
Mm.
So, I don't know you in this way, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I look at your data, I listen to your story, the question that comes up to me for me is she ever bothered? And if she is, if something does bother her,
Wow.
w how does she manage that? What does she do with that? Because if everything is chill, mellow, balance, you're never up, never down, then it could suggest you're never bothered by anything, and we aren't saying bothered is good or bad, okay? It's all energy again.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it would raise that question for me. If we were doing a one-on-one, I'd be like, "Well, let me ask you something, girl. Are you
Excellent
ever bothered?"
observation. Excellent observation. I am aware that I do not um share my emotions freely, openly.
Mm,
People who are in my close knit circle, they know when I'm bothered
mhm,
from spending time with me. So I'm only willing to share or tell you what the telltale signs are if I
mm,
feel safe with you. So I will tell people what the telltale signs are. And again, from my story, I'm realizing back even 5 years old, social behavior was data. And then, of course, as an emotional intelligence expert, emotions are also data. And so what y'all just helped me realize about myself is that I've been processing other people's behavior as data. And so maybe when I present myself, um, or a story or share, just present myself into any room, I'm already detached
mm,
because it's just data. So And it makes sense to me because I am a social scientist. So I'm always in I'm always in the lab, but my lab is everyday life. And
Mhm.
so I'm just reporting my findings, my social scientific findings, whether it's about myself or others. But that helps me do my job, which is to help other people orient themselves and become a little more centered and grounded. So it serves me to, in my perspective, it serves me to be like that because I'm just being myself. But me being centered, grounded, unbothered helps steady other people. So if they're floating in the air, I help ground them. If they're on fire, I cool them down. If they're in the water, I could pick them up and help them stop drowning and orient themselves. I don't try to live their lives for them. I just say, hey, you're here. I'm like when you go to a mall or airport and it has a sign that says you are here, that's what I do for people. I
Mhm.
say, I know your life is chaos, this happened, that happened, all the things, but you are here. This is who you are and this is where you are. Okay, now turn this way and then you can step forward. And
Mhm.
so that's
Mhm.
how I see it.
You use balance as a strategy.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I was just going to say
Really?
because
Okay.
you can look some might look at this and see it as a not strength, right? And say, "Why don't you have a little bit more emotions? Why aren't you more like engaging?" But what you've been able to do is take it and say, "This strength, it not only works for me, but it works for others," right?
Absolutely.
And
I use it to help you. Well, not you
it,
specifically, but the collective you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is what is so powerful about what we're showing everyone and demonstrating through these lives is how we are taking this information about yourself, your experience, your behavior, and showing you how to navigate your world, right? And if you're working in a team, how you now can be in space with other people who you might look at like the total opposite. One person's fire, one person's water, one person, and it's like, yes, but let me show you how you can work this to your advantage so that you can reach your goals together. And so I think this was just so beautifully demonstrated today in this session.
Well, I thank you both. I know we're past our time, and we'll have to do it again. We'll figure out how we're going to continue to welcome people into our conversations and invite people into the conversations to share and
Yes.
experience our
Yeah.
expertise as a collective. You could get all three of us. My expertise is empowerment and orientation
Mhm.
using your human design and astrology. Pamela Elaine is obviously an expert in emotional intelligence, and then Marjorie is here to help you understand how you use all of you, all of
Mhm.
your experiences and information to evolve. And so we will see you next time.
Next
It's been
Monday.